Hey, this is Dr. Force with Hitting Home. It's Friday evening, and I'm just trying to put the finishing touches on a long week of work. In fact, I think right now it's about 12:08 a.m. On Saturday morning, and I've been trying to figure out all week long, why is it that on Wednesday we had so many people unfollow us that were formerly following us on Facebook. In fact, if you look at our chart of all the likes that we had all week long, it goes up on Monday, up on Tuesday, up on Thursday, up on Friday, but it dips way down on Wednesday. And I've been trying to figure out once again, why did we have so many people unfollow us on Wednesday? And it just hit me about 20 minutes ago. On Wednesday, we actually published our video on divorce, remarriage, and adultery. I think it's an amazing day when you are a legalist simply for quoting the words of Christ. It's amazing how reactionary we can be to someone who is simply quoting the words of Christ on marriage. Once again, in the video, one of the things that we said is that when Jesus spoke on marriage, the very first thing that he dealt with in Matthew 5 and also Matthew 19 is the subject that we stay away from, we steer clear from. And now I know why. Because it's not popular. Once again, people think you're a legalist simply for quoting the words of Christ. And in Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 19, Jesus pointed out when we divorce and remarry and we do this without a cause, God calls it adultery. And one of the things that we said in chapter 2 of our marriage book is that the only difference between a number of our divorce and remarriage cases and outright adultery is time and a piece of paper in a courthouse. And once again, this is not to be demeaning, this is not to be disparaging, but at some point, pastors have to get back to establishing God's standard. And let's understand that the less we talk about something, people will think that we don't believe in something if we're not preaching it from the pulpit. There's actually 3 steps to apostasy in the church. The first is that preachers start to take their sharp angles off of the preaching because they don't want to offend this particular member or they don't want to offend that group of people in the church. The second is that because it won't help the people, therefore we won't preach it. And I believe that we've been in that stage for the last 20 to 25 years in the church at large. And the third stage, or the third step there is to apostasy, is that because we don't preach it, therefore the people think that we don't believe it. And that's exactly where we're at in our day and age. Pastors are afraid to deal with, on the subject of marriage, what Jesus dealt with first. Now, once again, this does not mean that we try to go back and fix something in the past. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to be demeaning or condescending, or I'm not trying to condemn you. It means that we look forward, but even in the spirit of looking forward, we have to establish God's standard. And one of the things I said in the video on Wednesday is that I believe as a pastor, as I look around, we have legalized spouse swapping going on in the church at large, and who's saying anything about it? We're going to conferences where they make you laugh, they make you cry. Somebody has to give the mind of God concerning marriage in our day and age. We need to do it in love and in grace, and I understand there's some of you in extremely difficult circumstances. I understand that in 1 Corinthians 7:15, that the Apostle Paul said, if the unbelieving depart, let them depart. A spouse is not under bondage in such a case. I understand that after 700 years of hard, unrepentant adultery in Jeremiah 3 and verse 8, that God wrote Israel a bill of divorcement. I understand all that. I understand that some of you are in situations where it may be better to marry than to burn in your own passion. I understand all that. But at some point, rather than getting caught up in all the specificities, we must get back to exalting God's standard and the subject that we will not deal with. Jesus dealt with first when he conducted a marriage conference. The first time he spoke on marriage, the first time that it is mentioned that he dealt with marriage, he dealt with the subject of divorce, remarriage, and adultery. I say it in love, but at Hitting Home, we see marriages saved every day. We have over a 70% success rate. And being on the front line of what I call marriage evangelism and marriage discipleship, I've come to the conclusion we must exalt God's standard. And we need to do it in love and in grace. We love you guys, but let's not be reactionary and let's not call people legalists simply for quoting the words of Christ. We love you guys. God bless you.